Hello everyone. Today we'll have a look at the verb to be for the present tense. That means we'll also have a look at the Slovene personal pronouns, of course. Let's start off with English and then move on to Slovene. The first thing you probably notice is the dual. Of course, English has no grammatical category for precisely two people or objects. That's why the text is colored gray. However, Slovene has the dual, and I think it's useful to show where its place would be in English. The second thing I'd like to point out is that in English, the pronoun you can refer to two things. It can refer to the second person singular or the second person plural. In Slovene, the second person plural is different from the second person singular, so we basically have an equivalent of the Southern American y'all without it being marked as belonging to an accent. Let's look at gender now. Notice that English distinguishes masculine and feminine pronouns only for the third person singular. In other words, if you have a sentence like I'm happy, there's no way to know whether the speaker is male or female. The same goes for the singular you, and the plural we, you, and they. In Slovene, you also can't always know whether we're talking about a male or female, but you can definitely know more often than in English. In Slovene, the masculine-feminine distinction is there not only in the third person singular, but in every dual and every plural pronoun as well. So, for example, Slovene has a separate pronoun for the two of us men and the two of us women, y'all men and y'all women, and so on. Also, it's worth mentioning that in Slovene as spoken in Ljubljana, the third person singular pronoun it isn't used. It exists, but it's pretty much obsolete. Moving on, notice that when conjugating the verb to be for the plural, it stays the same for the first, second, and third person. It's always are. In Slovene, it's different for all three. And I think that's about it. Let's compare it to Slovene now. Okay, let's break it down one step at a time. First, let's mark all feminine pronouns that English doesn't have with purple. Now, in order to use the feminine pronouns, all members of the group you're referring to have to be female. If not, you still use the masculine pronouns. So, for example, let's say we wanted to refer to a couple, a male and a female, in the second person. We'd then use vidva. We'd use vedve only when referring to two women. Same goes for a group of people. A group of 5 women and 4 men is still vi for the second person and not ve. We didn't color the third person feminine pronoun ona purple because it's the same in English and Slovene. He, she, on, ona. Let's go through the pronouns so you know how to pronounce them. Jaz, ti, on, ona, midva, medve, vidva, vedve, onadva, onidve, mi, me, vi, ve, oni, one. Now let's point out how similar the dual and plural pronouns are. The second part of the male dual pronouns is always dva, and the second part of the female pronouns is always dve. Both dva and dve mean two in Slovene. In Slovene, numbers from 1 to 4 have gender distinction, and after 5 the numbers are the same for every noun, no matter the gender. Dva is the masculine number 2, and dve the feminine. So, as you can see, the dual pronouns are for the most part formed by taking the plural pronouns and simply adding dva or dve. I say for the most part because it's true for the first and second person, but not quite for the third. Also, you should know that people don't only say medve and vedve, but also midve and vidve, taking the masculine plural and then adding either dva or dve. I'm going with medve and vedve because I think it's easier to remember to always just use the plural pronoun of the correct gender, so masculine or feminine, and then add the correct form of the number 2. But people use midve and vidve a lot, perhaps more than medve and vedve in colloquial Slovene, at least in Ljubljana. So if you want to remember to form the dual pronouns with the masculine plural pronouns, then by all means do so. Just choose one and stick to it. Oh, and onidve is a more colloquial way of saying onidve. Okay, now let's compare the conjugated forms of both verbs. Notice how much more the Slovene forms vary. Of 9 possible conjugated forms, only the second and third person dual are the same. Vidva or vedve sta and onadva or onidve sta. All other forms are different. Let's go through them. Jaz sem, ti si, on je, ona je, midva sva, medve sva, vidva sta, vedve sta, ona dva sta, oni dve sta, mi smo, me smo, vi ste, ve ste, oni so, one so. I know this is a lot of information at once, but I included everything so you have a good overview. Definitely don't start learning all of this at once. Focus on the singular and get comfortable with that first. Afterwards, I suggest focusing on the plural, since the second person plural is the form you use to politely address someone in Slovene. You show respect and politely address people in formal occasions by referring to a single person in the plural. Okay, so that was an overview of the verb to be. Now let's see how to negate it. Again, this looks like a lot of text, but basically we just added how to negate the verb in brackets following the conjugated forms. In English, we just add the word not to all the forms, and it's almost as simple in Slovene. In Slovene, we negate a verb in the present tense by putting the word ne in front of the conjugated verb form. The verb form remains the same and ne stands in front of the verb as a separate word. This is true for the vast majority of Slovene verbs. However, the verb to be is an exception. For the verb to be, we add the word ni before the verb and then make one word out of it. There's only one exception to this rule, and we'll have a look at that after going through all the forms. Jaz nisem, ti nisi, on ni, ona ni, midva nisva, medve nisva, vidva nista, vedve nista, ona dva nista, oni dve nista, mi nismo, me nismo, vi niste, ve niste, oni niso, one niso. Notice that the stress always falls on the ni. Smo, nismo, ste, niste. Remember we said there is only one exception when negating the verb to be. The only time it doesn't follow the set pattern of ni plus the verb form is the third person singular. The third person singular is an exception because we don't say nije, but just ni. On je, on ni. Ona je, ona ni. And that's it. That's how to conjugate and how to negate the present tense verb to be in Slovene. Since you won't be learning all of this at once, let's see what you should focus on at the beginning. But first, let's go over everything again, this time in the form of sentences. First, the singular. Dobro means well, and it functions as an adverb here. That's why it stays the same for all persons and numbers. With an adjective such as tall or rich, for example, the form would always be different, but I wanted to keep it simple. Saying jaz sem dobro means I'm well or I'm okay, I'm doing okay. It's one of the things you can say when someone asks you how you're doing. Let's quickly go over them, and I'll leave the negations out since you know by now you just add ni and stress that part of the new word. Jaz sem dobro, ti si dobro, on je dobro, ona je dobro. Midva sva dobro, medve sva dobro, vidva sta dobro, vedve sta dobro, ona dva sta dobro, oni dve sta dobro. Mi smo dobro, me smo dobro, vi ste dobro, ve ste dobro, oni so dobro, one so dobro. Since this is simply too much information, let's start trimming it down and see what we can get rid of as less important. Forget about the dual at first. The plural is more important since the second person plural is how you address someone in a formal situation in Slovene. Let's get rid of all the plural feminine forms as well. Remember that the masculine forms function as neutral forms as well, and by that I mean you refer to mixed groups as men, which means that the feminine pronouns are used to refer specifically to women. There will be more groups that are either male or mixed than groups with female members only. That's why I suggest you leave out the feminine forms for now. And finally, let's get rid of the negations as well, since those are easy to remember. Just add ni before the conjugated form, and remember that he and she are exceptions like we said. So, what are we left with? Jaz sem dobro, ti si dobro, on je dobro, ona je dobro, mi smo dobro, vi ste dobro, oni so dobro. Of these, we can again point out the first, second, and third person singular as more important, along with the second person plural, since that's the polite way of talking to people in Slovene. I'd focus on those four first and then gradually make my way through the rest. That's it for this lesson. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something new. Good luck, study hard, and aim for the stars.